thanks a lot. And I think it's also Dan, thank you for your nice word. I only want to really also have a little bit of caution in the system, because today, neither words, nor Teams, nor Zoom works very well. And so all of a sudden you are gone. And it takes minutes to come back. So I tried to maybe be faster through the system. And then whenever there's time, please feel free to ask questions or so on. So first of all, Dan, thanks for the invitation. And I'm really delighted and honored to be speaking at this very special event to you and with you. And as we meet today in this virtual space, the world continues to face a very, very difficult time, a time of a great crisis. Dramatic disruption to our way of life, and we all feel it, causing stress, anxiety, and fear. But we also experience a shift in people's attitude and in people's expectations, not just as customers and consumers, but also in our employee workforce and as citizens. And there's also, and we should not forget and not only see the bad thing, there's a wave of opportunities, accelerating new technology. And we see it also today. And by the way, one of the last events I attended before the pandemic was the AUTOBEST Awards in Germany. Maybe you know them. And none of us at that time knew then that what would follow.
Yes.
But before I say anything more, I must emphasize, my thoughts are with everyone who has lost loved ones in this unfolding human tragedy of coronavirus. And to measure the scale of a crisis in lives lost is something none of us were prepared for. Mercifully, in many countries, the worst appears to be over. The new communities and industries begin to plot the paths to a new normal while bracing themselves for second waves. But ladies and gentlemen, we must be guided by science, by facts and figures, and not by science fictions and just emotions. And the former president of the Royal Society, Wenke, put it best. At this time of global crisis, the importance of scientific thinking and the medicines, technologies, and insight it delivers has never been clearer. And I totally agree. Now, for Jaguar Land Rover, the temporary shutdown of our operation has now been almost fully reversed. Every day, more of our dealers reopen and we rebuild slowly, slowly, slowly. The demand of our vehicles will be reflected in the demand of mobility. And already the data of our customer cars tells us that the usage will be within 20% of the pre-COVID levels. The signs are promising, but the landscape complex. And as a medical emergency subsides, the collateral damage, the economic damage comes into the picture, fragmented and in many areas chaotic. And there is not, and by the way, will not be, one universal formula for a successful recovery. Think about it. Travel bans, quarantines, business shutdowns. COVID has broken the very principle of democracy. Think about it. We all have broken these kind of principles. We accepted eroded rights, restricted freedoms. We should think about whether fear at the end of the day is really a good advisor, or whether we should go back to Ravi's statements. And the damage done to human welfare, to our societies, our communities, our health and our economy, I think will be as big, if not bigger, as the current disease itself. That sounds hard, but today it's everything transparent and we see everything. Tomorrow, we will not see everything anymore, and many people will suffer. And ladies and gentlemen, let us all remember that our actions today will shape who we will be and we will become tomorrow. We must think in the longest time frames, but with the nearest horizons. A little bit statistics. The World Bank has estimated that COVID-19 will push up to 90 million people in extreme poverty. Can you imagine? 90 million people. And we can expect now to see the very first increase in global poverty in 22 years. Unemployment goes up. Our ability to find and offer new jobs goes down. And it is the young job seekers who will suffer the most. Necessity or necessary medical treatments and operations have been postponed. And you all know it. We all know friends and people who had this kind of challenge. And the resulting implications become apparent just now. And ladies and gentlemen, these are the times when the values of responsible business become the pillars of global economic life. Think about the start of the second wave in Germany, where it comes from and why. Now, for everyone at Jaguar Land Rover, this is already in our DNA that we take care. And we have to say thanks also to Ratan Tata, our chairman emeritus of Tata Sons. Ratan is an inspiration. And I guess we know him all. He just joined your own AUTOBEST Hall of Fame last year. And that makes a difference. And without doubt, he has become a global symbol of the power of business for good. But as you know, any good business must first create value before considering the prerequisite to distribute it again. Jaguar Land Rover is really focused on shaping the future of mobility, and that starts with making a compelling case for the economy and social benefits of mobility, further amplified in a world living with COVID. And I would come and really state it out. Mobility is the lifeblood of a flourishing society. It is essential to access employment, education, healthcare, and to trade. And we also should fight for it. Mobility is a basic human right for all of us. And by the way, indeed, a 2015 Harvard study showed that lower commuting time is strongly correlated to a lower social standard. An isolated, static population is unhealthy, unproductive, and unhappy. A mobile community is economically, culturally, and socially dynamic and stronger. And that's all what we want, a strong, powerful society. Now, let's think back to our products, to our opportunities. I guess we all witnessed that in recent months and years, we all in the industry have focused on different technology propulsion systems. We need to deliver the technologies that will best cut emissions and consumption and deliver agile mobility, how we really want to experience it. But think about what is happening today. Many people are unsettled already and don't know what kind of vehicle they should buy. Diesel or gasoline, or embrace battery electric vehicles, even though it means waiting for a functional charging infrastructure and more convenience, and not having 100% renewable energy to be charged with. Or should they take the middle path with hybrids, or just wait for the next big thing, hydrogen fuel cells or e-fuels or whatever it might be. But please be also anchored again by the measure of energy efficiency. So calculating the end-to-end process, the battery electric vehicle is the clear winner for the majority of the personal mobility demand. And without saying, it should be renewable energy charging this kind of mobility vehicle. And I think in that context, I also want to mention one thing. And let me rule out the one concern which is so widely spread around the world. The world does have enough energy. We will not run out of energy. The challenge is only the challenge of costs. And this, our society should be able, and our politicians should be capable to manage it. It's manageable. We can make it. So, for the mobility sector, smart infrastructure will determine when we plug in, not if. And I just want to go back quite clear to the Jaguar Land Rover area. And I say already in 2018, can you imagine, already 2 years ago again, sounds like ages. We launched the first premium battery electric vehicle, the Jaguar I-Pace. And by the way, winner of the Golden Steering Wheel. And you all know it's a very special award in Germany. You can even more so be sure that it was a very special award for me as a German. But the vehicle also did win the European Car of the Year, the Triple World Car of the Year, as well as your own AUTOBEST Award. And still today it delivers the highest energy efficiency. Isn't it great? And last year, and I also would like to say something to Defender, because it's our Defender, it's an icon, and we really have to talk about it. And I'm so proud about it that we could do it. We launched the Defender last year, and we did it in a very special way. And we had intensive discussions whether we should look backwards with a retrograde design and a little bit outdated technology, or look forward, anticipating more or less also the future and future requirements, environmental requirements. And we clearly decided to look ahead, to look in the future. So we have a vehicle for today and tomorrow based on principles and better environmental also technology. And so we electrified. And I feel really committed for this kind of environmental element. And so I'm also pleased that our order books, by the way, are filling up. Production restarted again. And so please order quickly if you want to enjoy driving one. So, by the way, from this week on, you also can rent the new Defender complete with a roof tent for your own experience. So you can experience real adventure in the very best 4x4 on the planet. Overall, Jaguar and Land Rover, we have a full pipeline of exciting new vehicles, all based on future-oriented next-generation architectures. So designed to accommodate flexible propulsion systems, internal combustion engines, as well as plug-in hybrids and or mild hybrids, and or also battery electric vehicles. And as you know, we don't do ordinary, we always have stunning designs brought to life by our most dedicated and passionate designers and engineers. And we are really ready for a more connected, autonomous future for global mobility. And think a little bit about global and future mobility. Let's imagine a world where smart infrastructures with connected intersections, traffic signals and crosswalks enable better traffic flows, using the Internet of Things and artificial intelligence, where autonomous technology and big data enables people to share transport safely, seamlessly, reducing congestion, and where vehicles are constructed using circular economy principles. And that's very important for me. In all we do, this kind of circular economy principles with new sustainable self-repairing materials, upcycled and natural fibers that reduce emissions. And where at the end of the day, electric vehicles are also charged from renewable energy with the next generation of batteries. These kind of new technologies and the combination across sectors, although that's very important, the combination across sectors will lead ultimately to three major societal benefits. Zero congestion, as vehicles and traffic management get smarter, zero emissions with growing electrification, and zero accidents, as the vehicle autonomy cuts driver errors. At Jaguar Land Rover, we call this vision Destination Zero, a vision based on data analysis, AI, innovation, and a passion for mobility. And in a post-COVID environment, Destination Zero becomes even more relevant. Will we not all want transport to carry minimal risks when it comes to infection and hygiene? Maybe that's the renaissance of the car. And hopefully, and with the support of you, with the support of the media, it can also change the mindset in favor of our industry. And I'm absolutely sure that in this environment, people will look to private vehicles as a safe haven, a cleaner, more secure form of travel. And by the way, our Jaguar Land Rover vehicles will offer a tranquil sanctuary from the outside world with cabin air filtered and ionized to achieve zero risk of infection. So zero fear. Just another vision. Imagine how high quality autonomous ride-hailing services meeting the demand for safe, environmental friendly transport options for the majority of road journeys, especially and specifically for the 60% of car trips that, according to McKinsey, are less than 8 kilometers. And we at Jaguar Land Rover, we also intend to be in the vanguard of such services, as shown by the introduction of our concept vehicle, Project Vector, designed as an advanced, flexible, multi-use electric vehicle that is autonomy ready. And Project Vector can revitalize cities. And think about it, we have so many old transport means in cities. They don't help cities to be revitalized. We need new ways to have a living city, a higher quality, a well-being in cities again. We can save hundreds of millions for the treasury of every and each country to get rid of this kind of old technologies and replace it. And these kind of things are good for the industry, good for the economy, good for also, let's say, new job cards. In that context, governments, academia, and the industry across sectors could be at the forefront of future-oriented, connected, and integrated mobility systems. And only together creating an essential ecosystem for next-generation technology, including the next generation of better, smaller, cheaper batteries, only together it can be done. And we all sitting around the table today, we have the opportunity to generate these kind of new jobs, secure prosperity, and lead the transformation of the entire mobility sector. So, dear Dan, ladies and gentlemen, no company can do these kind of changes, create these kind of visions and transform on its own. The industry and media have to join forces to prepare the best information for the politicians and the governments and guide potential customers in the right direction. Yes, at the very moment we all fight the day-to-day business. Simultaneously, we all look how we can manage to come out of the crisis and create the momentum again for our customers, our employees, and our business. I feel a responsibility for my people, and I see a huge opportunity globally for smart and modern mobility. not one company, as I mentioned. It's only in all of our hands. We have to join forces, but together we will not only survive, we can thrive again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ralf. Was very impressive, this speech, this vision of you about not only JLR, but also about the mobility. And we all can only agree that mobility is, as you said, a basic human right. And I do hope, myself and my colleagues, that also the politicians will learn and will accept that is a basic right. Allow me to start the moderation with some more detailed questions. How do you see this? What is it? What crisis, this kind of crisis, did to the car industry, did to JLR? What changed beyond the fight of everyday survival? What happened? Are you thinking to reduce the number of models because there are no more customers? Are you forced to have less people working in the company because there are so many prognoses about this 25% less sales and production this year? Let us know a little bit your vision on this.
Now, first of all, I come from we sit in the crisis, and in this kind of crisis, the management of survival, of cash, is one of the most important things, because cash is king. And I guess we have also to understand that the crisis for an industry which needs research, design, engineering is a different crisis to a retailer, a trader, or maybe even to politicians. In some areas, you go out of the door, you close your door, and you have a pile of work on your desk. And you can come back in 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, and it hardly makes a difference. In our business, it's by far more critical, because we have to make sure that in X months, years' time, we have got new products. And that means we have to do research, development, and engineering, and involve suppliers, partners, and so on. And all of a sudden, it's blocked. Everything is blocked. You don't get material anymore from suppliers. You don't get research information anymore. So therefore, everything will be postponed, more or less. And in the liquidity crisis, you also have to more or less reduce costs drastically, investment drastically, and therefore also pause the one or the other vehicle. And then is the question, how can you bring people back? And the most important thing, it has to be protective for the people. We have to make sure that our people are really protected. And so we follow every and each restriction or recommendation from governments, from health authorities, but also from our own doctor. And that works very well. So people coming back, they feel sure, but at the end of the day, we have lost time. And time is not just a commodity. We cannot buy time. We cannot bring time back. And in our business, time is so important. And therefore, it will hurt us. And now it's the question how we come back. And if you see that the most professional forecasting institutes are prognosing in between 10 and 30% less vehicles, can you imagine what it means on a global basis? We are at the moment in a good position. We will start in autumn, more or less, with our new facelifts, with our new model years, and we have a really good and new program. And Defender is, in addition, a very good car. But I am really concerned. What does it mean if the second wave is going to come? If a new flu comes, as normally in the late months of the year or early springtime, and we are really exposed. So we will survive. we have the liquidity to do these kind of things. But on the other hand, we have to really see what kind of vehicles we can go forward with or not. I'm cautiously optimistic. And by the way, in that context, if you look to China, China is coming out of the crisis quite nicely. America is also not really bad. We have more issues in Europe and still, as you know, let's say major issues in the UK.
Ralf, talking about the future of electromobility, how do you see now this future? Do you think the crisis was stopping a little bit the evolution, the quick pace of the electromobility, or it was just a moment in time and maybe it's the other way around? Maybe the crisis just accelerated this race to electromobility. What is your vision on that?
Yeah, it's a different picture, I guess. I see that the way to electrified mobility, but the question is, what is really electrified and how is it defined? Mobility that will be supported by many governments. You see it out of Brussels, you see it also out of the German incentive schemes, which only support, in principle, electrified vehicle and not the normal internal combustion engine. So I think that people are being careful. I think on the other side that people need more to commute. There we will see more vehicles, normal vehicles, cheaper vehicles also. And at the end of the day, we need a combustion engine for a certain period of time. It cannot be stopped in 2030 or 2035. So it will take by far longer because with every change, it's not only a question of the car. So in principle, the automotive industry is prepared to deliver the one or the other vehicle, but it doesn't make a big sense from an environmental point of view if we then charge the vehicles with a low degree of renewables out of the energy. So it has to go in harmony. And that I don't see at the moment. I see more investments in charging systems, but we don't have the complete, let's say, charging network across countries. We have focused it in cities, but the complete landscape is not covered. That has to be done and that has to be rolled out faster. So I'm very optimistic that the environment is bringing electrified vehicles more in the focus. But if you think at the moment for 2030, the forecast institutes are in between 20 and 35% of forecasting electrified vehicles, not only BEVs, but the complete PHEVs, MHEV, and whatever it is. Turn the figure around. And if you turn the figure around, that means also that we have for, let's say, 60 to 70% still the internal combustion engine. That means at the end of the day for the industry, we have to do both. The one side, refine the internal combustion engines, and on the other side, invest intensively in electrified vehicles.
By the way, talking about this, how do you see the future of diesel? How much was affected by the crisis?
I guess not affected by this crisis, this medical crisis at all. It was affected by, let's say, I don't want to talk about competitors, let's say, not proper technology and the policy which was going with it. That was the most critical issue, because for me, the diesel engine, in the latest also trim levels and EU 6 and 7, is a wonderful motors, very fuel economy, with low fuel economy, with lower emissions, and especially also then for smaller cars, for long distances, for heavy vehicles, and so on. So I don't want to give up on diesels. However, I hope that the media, the journalists can help us not to hit permanently on diesels, because that will quite clear be the death of the diesel.
Okay, my dear colleagues, in about 7 minutes, we can go for your questions, so you can start raising hands. In the meantime, I will come back to you, Ralf, and I will ask you a particular question because you mentioned Jaguar I-Pace. Do you imagine that the Jaguar brand will become 100% electric brand?
Then you know that I cannot give you an answer. By the way, in the long term, definitely, we just talked about. So we will electrify, and by the way, we have electrified many of the vehicles. We also have PFs in Jaguar already. So out of that reason, we go in this electrified direction anyhow.
By the way, talking about Jaguar, are you committed still with Jaguar Panasonic Racing to the ABB Formula E further on?
Yes, we are, let's say, committed, and we will continue. And in that context, it was a pity that we had this kind of break, because you have seen the development of our racing team, and they really were on stage. And Mick Evans is really a very good driver, and he had the opportunity to be in the not only pole position, but also winning this year very many of these kind of awards. And so I think it was a pity. Fingers crossed for Berlin. So they will do in Berlin the next, let's say, racing events, and I hope that we will become again very, very successful. So fingers crossed for Mike Adams.
As you know, we are very focused on the mega trends, and as you know, we did a kind of pool of ideas and questions for you, and one of my colleagues was reminding me in a very nice way about the connectivity, which obviously it is and will still be an important trend. But Rob was coming with an interesting twist. As we see nowadays, the IT industry, the technology industry going so strongly farther on, can we imagine in the future that we as a car industry will keep our job in the industry doing great cars and leaving them to occupy this territory, I don't know, maybe with tablets or smartphones, or the trend will be to continue to push in a full-blown cooperation between these industries?
At the end of the day, from my point of view, we know very well how to bend sheet metal. We can do very good bodies, and we can do very good cars. But it's quite clear that the degree of value in electronics, electronic architectures and connectivity will continue. And that will also be the feature of the future, especially for the young generation. Therefore, from my point of view, and that's, by the way how we are doing it at Jaguar Land Rover, we have to have more partnerships also with high-tech companies in the US, in China, because as you know, there are different, let's say, legal systems, and let's say an autonomous system in the US will definitely not work in China and vice versa, but also in Europe, because we need the speed, we need a totally different way how to work, and we need the consumer electronics also in our cars, made in a way that the consumer electric also is delivering the value we need in a car. There are extreme conditions in a car. A normal consumer electric and electronics is not completely fit for these kind of purposes and this kind of situations. It will come, and so we will become faster. And in that context, think about Vector also. And it's a very good example. Vector can be autonomous ready, remotely controlled. And what is really something special, we have software over the air. We can involve also the infrastructure, so that we can step by step go in this kind of direction. And as I mentioned earlier, get rid of these kind of accident, of many accidents. as you know, we have 1.3 million issues per year due to the traffic. 90% of these kind of incidents are caused by the driver. And so I guess we have, first of all, to help the driver more and more so that we can take over functions more and more. And on the other side also then, can take the next step to fully autonomous. That will take a little bit longer because there's ethics, cybersecurity, all these kinds of things involved. But it will come, and it's a question of time, and let's go there. I'm looking very optimistic in this kind of future.
Great. One last point from my side, and then we go with my colleagues. Another colleague, and I like the idea. We are all talking about online sales. It's not only the car industry. I mean, it's a worldwide phenomenon during the COVID. My question to you is, it was working for JLR, these online sales? Did a kind of difference, or is just one small part of the business?
I think it will be expanded and can be expanded, but from my point of view, it will always be a certain small business, because if you buy a car for whatever, 60, 80, 100,000, 150,000 pounds or even more so, then it's not, you don't buy these kind of products from bits and bytes. You want to go to your jewelry to buy a watch. You want to see, you want to feel, you want to have a personal connection also to the man who sells you these kind of things, because you also know that you want to service it, and you have to service it.
Yeah.
Change the winter tires and even small things. And I think people at the end of the day are the business, and people buy at and sell at the end of the day these kind of valuable goods. So I don't fear that we have problems with dealerships, because many were of the opinion we don't need dealerships anymore because we all of a sudden have a Teams meeting and we do everything there. And by the way, handover will be also done by helicopter or whatever. No, I'm absolutely sure that there will, yes, a growing element of preparation, better information via the digital means and the digital opportunities. But at the end of the day, I want to also know whom I send a check of 100,000 pounds.
Good. Now we can start the session with my dear colleagues. Please don't forget to raise the hands in the system to know who. I can't see you. I see Gerhard, so he will be the first. But for the next ones, it will be great to raise the hand, not on video, just on, as you know, on the system. To see you. Now, Gerhard, please go on. One question, please. Everybody will have one question.
Hello, Ralf.
Scott Kuchnik.
Good to see you. Almost from your home. My question, of course, is related to your relationship with Magna and Graz. There was a shortage of battery supply caused by the partner in the Far East. Is this problem solved for the I-Pace in Graz, or is there still the delivery, the supply chain interrupted, or is everything back to normal? And what are your goals for the near future with the I-Pace and with the second car in Graz, the E-Pace? Will it stay being built at Magna?
Kunchik, first of all, I'm sitting here in Bavaria at the very moment.
Oh, okay.
Because I was last weeks always also in the UK, but can you imagine in the complete headquarters, there was 3, maximum 4 people. The complete engineering center, completely empty. There's nobody. Yeah, because we were not allowed from the UK government to bring the people back at that time, and still are not at the moment, so we can start more or less from the 4th of July in a better way. Coming back to your questions, I'm not on the latest status, and therefore I cannot give you a clear signal, yes or no, whether it works. I know that at the moment we don't have an issue. but that's looking backwards for the last, let's say, 14 days, 3 weeks. So we didn't have a problem. How it will look in the future, I don't know at the moment. So I don't want to give you the wrong information, but I hope that it's clarified. We will have the 2 vehicles in Graz, yes. And by the way, we expect the CEO of Magna in the UK, and I really look forward to see Günther in the UK to talk with him about the one or the other also future project.
Ilya, please raise your question.
Dear Dr. Speth, let's return a little bit to reality. It was recently announced that Jaguar will reduce its model range. Based on what criteria will this happen, and which models will be affected by the reduction?
By the way, first of all, I'm not Dr. Speth for you. We know it too long already. That's, you don't have to use a sir or doctor. Come on, yeah, no, it's not necessary. By the way, yes, there was an announcement. I guess it was last Friday in the media that we gonna reduce or prune our complete product portfolio. But I only can assure you that nothing is decided, that we decide how we go forward. And there's some technology question, there's some product portfolio questions, but at the end of the day, quite clear also liquidity questions. Nothing is decided. So it's in my interest that we have a very diversified, very attractive product portfolio for our customers, so that we have vehicles for the use, bringing the use into our product portfolio so that they can grow also, that they can change in between Jaguar and Land Rover, so that we are a small company. We will not be BMW or Mercedes tomorrow with millions of cars. We will always be the boutique, call it niche manufacturer, but always wherever we are premium. Do something special. We have the very good designers from the Royal College of Art, and you know all this Cherry and let's say also now Julian, and this is absolutely sure that we will have good technology, good design, and at the end of the day, a very good substance for the potential customer.
Mishko, you have the mic.
Thank you. Hi, Ralf.
Hi.
In your speech, you informed us that in future, the market will ask for cheaper solutions of transportation and cheaper cars. How do you find your company there?
No, don't take it out of the context, please. This was a part where I especially referred to COVID. My impression is, and please you know it better because you have the information across so many other OEMs, but if I see it, then many people will not go to public transport. Not today and also not tomorrow. So I assume, depending in what kind of regions you are, and what I know definitely is that the demand for motorcycles, by the way, is going up drastically at the very moment, because people look for alternatives just to make the daily commute. And then I am also quite sure that probably these kind of cheaper cars will come because people want to be safe. But in that context, it will also be an area where people then use their normal cars just to commute and not go down to the tube. And especially now the girls want not to be, let's say, pushed in the tube because they're all overcrowded. So we will see also now a new way of commuting mobility. Well, by the way, the virus can survive around about 14 days in whatever material. So whenever you go in the tube and you sit down or you touch something, you don't know, and you don't know especially the intensity. You don't know what was left there. And by the way, we also don't know how the coronavirus at the end of the day is transported. He will not be transported on its own. He needs always let's say, a medium. In that context, do you know how the air flow is working? will we have in one area higher concentration of these kind of, let's say, not very valuable or critically damaging viruses. And if I go in, I have to touch something. I have to also be stable in this kind of, whether it's a bus or whatever. The virus can survive 14 days. Do you go down in there, or do you take a car then, if you have the opportunity to choose?
Thank you, Mishko. Okan, please go on.
Hello, Ralf. My question is about the new Defender. Also in Turkey, the customer expectations for the new Defender were lower price levels. Can you comment about the luxury segment pricing, or economic versions of new Defender are on the way, are coming?
First of all, we also will have quite clear that the commercial version for people who are doing business and so on, that will also come. But I can tell you the vehicle is sensational. And I was just last week again with my Cross on the test drive, and it's unbelievable how you can drive the car on the street. Off-road is anyhow clear. So, but I even shouldn't tell you the speed we drove with the Defender. It was a speed you never expected. And you can not only drive in the straight, you can really circle the vehicle around the corner. It's sensational. And then you have the latest protection, let's say, software in, then you have software over the air in, then you're always connected. Then you have a system in which at the end of the day allows us to bring software over the air in the car, and then we change just in the car from the one side to the other car. So it's a dual approach. This is really a vehicle also for today and the future, as I mentioned, and taking care about the environmental thing. And then just drive it, the stability. And so, have you driven it maybe in a test drive?
Sorry, yes, in 2 days I will see and drive a very short the car.
Yes, but also then I really would like to ask you, drive it really. Inform me afterwards whether your limits or the limits of the cars were more challenged.
I will do it, sir. I will do it.
Hey, Richard, raise your question.
Well, I'm a Brit, so I feel I should address you as Sir Ralf.
No, don't do it.
Please.
I feel proud about it. I feel absolutely proud because it's something very special. But I also say even more so that I am now a member of the Royal Society. Is also an unbelievable honor for me.
Good, absolutely, very, very proud. I understand you can't speak about specific projects, particularly relating to Jaguar, but you have these amazing developments with Formula E. You have the I-Pace, which has won so many awards. What do you think could be the potential for Jaguar going forward, and what is your vision for the Jaguar brand in particular going forwards?
First of all, I have to say, are you really a Brit or a Bavarian?
definitely a Brit.
Could you then change the picture on the wall, please, behind you?
But I own an E46, and I'm proud of that too.
You're a loyal Brit, drive at the end of the day, loyal English cars. So.
Yeah, it's Andy Prio though, so that's hopefully okay.
Okay, I was 20 years with that company. That's a great company also, don't worry. It was my childhood. I guess we have a very good product portfolio, and we are entitled to definitely sell more. We have to find ways to sell it in our dealerships. We are therefore also have the network now with this kind of new also dealer shops. So we have the Jaguar Land Rover system now with this arch system, so that we have both product portfolios in one dealership. And now step by step, we are also increasing the dealerships, and therefore I guess we also find the right way to sell more. If you look to the product portfolio and compare it with other competitors, we don't want to rush, and I don't want to rush in this thing, but I see that we can continuously really and profitable growth. So I don't want to have the growth only for the sake of the growth. It should be really a solid one. Now you have seen, and whenever you go back in statistic, then you see that we have reduced volume over the last years. And there was an extraordinary thing in China, where we really had this kind of dealer issues and this very special China situation. And now last year, COVID, and last year also not only COVID, but twice Brexit. Yeah, and nobody else in the world had last year twice Brexit like we had it. Yeah, and we again go this year also in the next Brexit situation, and I hope that this can be managed so that we don't have a COVID and on top a Brexit difficulty.
Okay, Mladen, please.
Yeah, Mr. Speth, very well regards from Belgrade, Serbia. You mentioned, and everybody mentions the same story, that the European market will shrink for 25 or maybe 30%. And it's inevitable that people are thinking about a more reasonable way to transport themselves. So who do you think will suffer the most? Luxury, premium, or manufacturers of, let's say, generally affordable cars? Who will have the biggest drop in the months to come?
If everybody knew about it and had the glass ball, then it would be easy. From my point of view, I think it's, by the way, not a European 20 to 25%, it will be a global. And that means that we will have some 20 million or so order of magnitude vehicle less. And in that context, in the overall picture, I assume that premium will lose, but not to a degree like the more volume manufacturers.
Good.
Yeah.
Dave, can you please put the question?
Hi, Ralph. Dave Humphreys here from Ireland. The question I have is, do you think the economic recovery of the automotive sector will be faster and stronger following this current crisis in comparison to the last global financial crisis? And also, how do you see Europe's recovery, and will it differ from maybe Asia and also the Americas?
Thank you, Dave.
First of all, you want to see which kind of curve. Do you believe in V or whatever alphabetic letter? I think that it will take a little bit longer, because at the end of the day, we were also forced to fall deeper. And this time, it's also all our suppliers are involved, all of our dealers and partners are involved. So it will be by far more critical to come out of this kind of crisis. And we see already today that we have in the supplier area a critical situation, because smaller suppliers are fighting also with this kind of liquidity issues. And if you have only a small supplier who has invested right now and has to pay back, that will be a huge challenge for these kind of companies. So it will take a little bit longer. Nevertheless, the population in the world is growing. Wealth overall in the world is still growing. And so I'm pretty optimistic that also mobility comes back. The question is, which kind of mobility? I guess in former times we would sit together and would have a wonderful beer at the bar. Now we meanwhile learned that these kind of things can also be done via Teams, Zoom, or whatever technology. We will see more of these kind of technologies, so also reducing the business mobility. But people at the end of the day, they want to go out. Whenever you see also in television how people go now on street to get their basic rights back, to can go out of their houses again and can enjoy their normal life, they also want to live again. And in that context, they need mobility, and therefore, I guess we will see also a good future for the automotive industry.
Dear colleagues, as we are approaching the end of the summit, we will take only three more questions from 3 more jury members. And then, of course, we will end this fantastic session. I will invite now Olivier from France. It's our new colleagues from France, Ralf, Olivier Page.
Hello, Ralf. Nice to meet you. Yeah, in France, there's summer, so it's good. Everybody knows that this crisis is very hard, but is it easier for, in your opinion, when you are a premium brand or not?
Sidney, I didn't get it completely. Can
you? Yeah, no problem. I said this crisis is very hard, but is it easier to handle it when you are a premium brand or not? So.
I think at the end of the day, it goes in the same direction like the previous question. I think at the end of the day, the premium industry has some benefits because the people buying premium cars were not that hardly really hit by the crisis.
Okay, Petros, please.
Hello from Cyprus, Dr. Speth.
Hey.
Will we expect the car prices to be rise after the problems of production from the pandemic? And my second question, what do you believe is the future of the motor shows?
First of all, the price. At the moment, I only can see from my side, we haven't even talked about that we want to increase prices because of pandemic. That's not the case at all. Yeah, we want to deliver a very good product substance, honest car, so without this kind of whatever, to the customer, and he can rely on it. That's it. So we will not make any political price only based on now this kind of pandemic. That's no, sorry, that doesn't work at all. That's not ethical, and that is not really justified. The other question was, sorry, about...
What do you believe about the future of the international motor shows?
Oh, that will be difficult. I assume that we also have to make and see the elephant sliced in the one or the other way, where we have motor shows with active involvement, so that this kind of also shows potential customer can buy, and it's a, let's say, a motor show which is really also known for these kind of things, and we have some in Europe, but also many in Asia which go in that direction. They will survive, because motor shows which are only going in that direction, showing a little bit something and giving a flavor, but not have active involvement from the public and are not active motor shows anymore, they will have a problem.
Okay, Oleg from Ukraine. Please, Oleg.
Good afternoon, Ralf.
Hello.
I have, I guess, a straight question, partly connected to the Petros one. Well-meant reduction of energy consumption globally. Here in Ukraine, we have switched off several nuclear reactions even. Not me, but someone who is doing this is better than guys shown in the Chernobyl movie. Low prices of crude oil is one of the consequences of the energy consumption drop. Could that seriously affect the business, at least on the production side? Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that low prices will, let's say, motivate people, and you know the best issue is the US. Whenever there's the price in the US, at a certain point, then you see the consumer like switching from one day to the other to different kind of vehicles, to different kind of propulsion systems. So you see the reaction very, very fast. And in that context, this kind of low prices will help make it more difficult, quite clear for the electric vehicle for a certain period of time. But we also can be sure that the low prices will not stay forever.
One last question from Tonio Darmanin from Malta. Please, Tonio. Tonio, can you hear me? Okay, go on, Tonio.
Sorry about that.
Voila.
Given the success of the I-Pace, can we anticipate having a fully electric Land Rover, Range Rover model, maybe in the near future. And it is being reported that Elon Musk has stated that he'll build a $25,000 electric vehicle. Will that stimulate Jaguar to try to compete?
First of all, greetings to Malta. You are in Europe, one of my higher market shares. So please make sure that market share in Malta can continue. A 25,000 pound electric vehicle at the moment is not let's say, the real solution for me, because at the end of the day, you have to have a certain range from my point of view. I can make you a cheaper I-Pace. I only have to halve the battery and you get a drastically reduced vehicle. But you get drastically reduced driving performance, and the range is not questionable. I could do it in a way that I then streamline aerodynamics and all these kind of things, but you don't like to sit anymore there because the rest is only cheap. So not at the moment. I'm not in this business, and at the moment, I guess there's not a solution. And batteries, the main cost driver in this kind of electric propulsion system, and there's no solution at the very moment where you can really deliver both performance, drive, whatever. And you will see also then very, very quickly that there will be the one or the other option where you can also spend more money.
I'm actually driving the Defender next Tuesday. I'm looking forward to that.
Inform me about it. Please write back to me and inform me how you have seen it.
Thank you, Tonio. I have a question here, Ralf, from our colleague Xavier Duff, which is asking, it's a particular question, but in my opinion, quite interesting. What do you think of the new English 4x4 from Ineos, the Grenadier? Looks like a Defender copy, doesn't it?
I haven't seen it, by the way. I've only seen the normal, let's say, photos, and I don't want to make a comment about it. I'm pretty sure that we have a super sensational Defender, and I'm not very concerned about it.
That's great. I will say, dear colleagues, dear Ralf, that was our fantastic session. It will be far from me to put any conclusions, because the whole idea, the whole concept of this summit is to explore the boundaries, is to come with ideas, thoughts about today and tomorrow, is to imagine what could be better and how we can influence ourselves together, the decision makers in Europe and on the planet, to do a better life for most of the people living. Obviously, the mobility is such an important part, and obviously the car industry and motoring media is playing a very important role. As we said in AUTOBEST several times, even more important today than it was in the past. I will thank first of all to my colleagues who've been extremely efficient in this, and I appreciate that technically it was impeccable. Everything went very well. That's great for about 35 people in the same place. If I counted correctly, about 27 or 28 jury members been at the moment in time together. And dear Ralf, so glad that you accepted. Thank you very much for this unique story. Then this will stay, because we will communicate through the YouTube channel of AUTOBEST this as a recording. Obviously, I'm very curious how many people in Europe just followed live on the Facebook of AUTOBEST, but also on our colleagues' media and colleagues' own Facebooks all around Europe. Thank you very much, and really hope to see you in person soon.
Now, first of all, Dan, thank you very much for the invitation. It was a very good experience for me. It was the first time that I attended such a meeting.
Thank you.
I can make one proposal.
Please.
It's short. because we were just going a little bit around and we just had a glimpse of an idea and just not a real discussion and an open thing. And it would be great with the, let's say, the ambition of AUTOBEST, but also with the interest of the automotive industry to really go a little bit deeper into one or the other things. And that is then at the end of the day costing time. So it would be great whenever we can do it next, if you all have, let's say, some minutes more time for a very, very open discussion, so that it's a really discussion, not just only this kind of one-to-one quick question, quick answer, because there's always a danger that we take it out of the context at the end of the day.
Thank you very much. I keep in mind that, and you will see, we will implement, and if you'll accept another invitation, we can do it together.
Super. So thanks a lot to everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Ralf.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Europe.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.